I work nights at a prison with no prisoners. And that's not a joke. It's the assignment they gave me. Keep watch over an empty facility until demolition crews arrive and the new place opens across town. They told me if I did this right, show up, follow orders, keep the building intact, I'd have a real post waiting for me at the new site. After years of warehouse shifts and parking lots and security gigs that ended when the budget did, that promise felt like a door finally opening. Orientation was short. The sergeant walked me down the main hall with a ring of keys that could anchor a boat. He showed me the desk, the logbook, the tower light switches, the radios that still hissed even when nobody answered. Cameras covered most blocks in gray angles. A few feeds were dead and had been for years. He kept his tone light until we reached the cramped corridor behind the infirmary. The bulbs there buzzed and stuttered, like they were deciding who deserved the light. He didn't give speeches. He gave one rule. Make your rounds, check fences and gates, log everything, he said. And don't open solitary confinement. I waited for the rest. Why? When? What happened? He didn't explain. He just repeated it, slower. Don't open solitary. I nodded. I wanted to be the kind of man who didn't need stories, just orders. He scratched a signature on the transfer sheet, pressed the keys into my palm, and by the time the outer gate groaned shut behind him, the building and its quiet belonged to me. The place was built in the 50s. Cinder block and steel, paint in tired shades of green and gray, hinges you could hang a truck from. A prison is loud when it's full, but this one had a different kind of noise. My boots echoed like there was someone behind me. The vents hummed. Old water lines ticked and coughed. Every few minutes, a sound would rise from nowhere, a faint clink, a sigh of ductwork, and then disappear before I could pin it down. I told myself to be grateful. Empty is much easier than the alternative. My first circuit took me through admin, kitchen, laundry, north block, south block, yard, towers, and back to the control room. I set the logbook open and wrote the same line on 3 straight hours. All secure. The solitary corridor sat where the floor plan said it would, but I didn't walk it that first hour. I saw it from the corner of my eye and let my feet pick a different direction. The rule the sergeant left me rode behind my ribs like a splinter. Don't open solitary. Second hour, I let myself pass the mouth of that corridor. The air felt colder by 2 or 3 degrees. A meaner kind of air with less room in it. 8 doors on each side, the map said. Slit windows, food slots with heavy covers. Bolts that looked like they could hold a train. I kept walking. Back at the desk, the feed labeled solitary was a black square with a paper note taped above it. Camera out. Deprioritized. I stared at the black anyway, like it might be shy and decide to show itself if I looked long enough. On night 2, I heard the first scratch. It was small enough at first that I could pretend it had come from inside my head. I flicked off the flashlight to make the darkness honest and listened. There it was again, a faint, steady line of sound, like a nail tracing steel. It stopped when I stepped. It resumed when I stood still. Pipes, I told myself out loud. Old metal talking. I walked faster. The log got its sentence in steady letters. All secure. On night 3, the scratch grew teeth. I turned the corner and the sound slid down the hallway and bit the air in front of me. Scrape. Pause. Scrape. It was slow and very, very audible, following the seam of a door that I just couldn't see. My hands went cold. Not my problem, I said, because sometimes you have to hear your own voice make the decision. I finished the circuit too quickly and sat in the control chair, staring at the dead square labeled solitary until dawn turned the windows a lighter gray. Days didn't help. Daylight makes most things smaller. But when I tried to sleep, the apartment felt short on oxygen. I would close my eyes and be right there again, halfway down that corridor, measuring the scrape between breaths. By noon, I could convince myself I'd imagined it. By 2, I was back there again. I ironed my shirt even though there was nobody to see it. I polished the nameplate on my chest like it was a charm. The next night brought banging. Not a lot at first. One flat hit that rattled metal, then another. Then a run of 3 that made my teeth click together. I stopped. The building stopped with me. The silence after a bang is bigger than the bang. It waits. It measures you. Then from behind, a door that could have been the 5th on the left or the 6th, I swear it moved. The banging came again, harder, paced like a heartbeat that had learned to hate something. "Hello?" a voice said. A man's, worn and thin, tight to the steel. "Officer?" Everything in me pulled 2 ways at once. The rule sat heavy and bright. So did the part of me that was raised to answer when someone asked. I decided to keep my mouth shut. Please, the voice said. They moved them out. They forgot me. I've been here since Friday. Transfers don't work that way. I spoke the procedure to myself like a lullaby. Counts, morning and night. Rosters double-checked, signatures that bind. Nobody gets left. Not on paper. The banging quieted. The scrape returned. I walked away because that was the only move I owned that night. By night 5, the voice had tears in it. Not loud. It was worse. The shape of a cry held under the tongue. "Please, officer," it said. "I don't deserve this. I'll be quiet. Just open it a crack." My legs went loose. In the control room, I flipped through the cameras to prove the prison. Empty bunks, empty day room, empty chow hall, empty yard, under a moon that didn't care. Solitary stayed black. I pressed the radio button anyway, though I knew the base station slept at night. "Control. Routine check," I said to static. Sometimes the supervisor calls to make sure I haven't learned to sleep sitting up. Nobody called. The next night, the voice knew me. "Officer," it said, neatly, like it had practiced. My throat closed. "You're a good one," the voice added, and I hated the way that praise landed on me. "Please, one exception. Let me out." The rule answered for me. Don't open solitary. The 2 sentences fought until I felt bruised inside. I tried tricks to prove the world was still the world. I put a chalk dot on the bottom corner of the door I thought the sound lived in. Next hour, the dot was a smudge. Drafts, I told myself. My boot. I stuck a strip of tape across the seam. On the next pass, it was torn neatly through, each edge clean, like an envelope slit with care. After that, I stared past the hallway, the way you look past the shape in your peripheral, because naming it would make you own it. By the 7th night, I was talking. Name? I asked the door, because names make people into something you can't stand near. Just a man, the voice said. Please. I hated him for not helping me, for staying human and not becoming a problem I could file away. How long? I asked. A weekend, he said. A lifetime? He said next. I don't know. The banging changed the next night. It wasn't fists, it was head, shoulders, the kind of thudding you make when you want to jar the bones of a building. Stop! I shouted, and the sound stopped like I'd pressed a button. Okay, the voice said, small as a child. I left a plastic cup of water near the floor as I walked by, because offering something is different than breaking something. On the next round, the cup was empty and exactly where I'd left it. It was a physics problem with a punchline I didn't want to work through. On night 9, the solitary feed wasn't black anymore. I don't know how or why. The picture staggered and then steadied into a grainy shot of the corridor. No timestamp, no overlays. A man walked into frame. He moved like he knew the place. He stopped at the 5th door on the left, held his flashlight in his teeth, and set a cup of water down. He nudged it toward the seam with 2 fingers, careful as a ritual. I recognized the boots first, then the way the shoulders sat under the uniform. I didn't know the face. The monitor blinked back to black, like it was embarrassed for telling on me. Was that me giving him water? Night 10. I folded. Not all at once. I walked other blocks 3 times for every once I walked solitary. I wrote all secure so many times the letters stopped meaning. I told myself to wait for morning. Morning didn't care. Around 3, when the building holds its breath and the world is the size of your flashlight beam, the voice started to sob. Please don't leave me, it said. Please don't be like the last one. I hated whoever the last one was, because hating him was easier than hearing myself in that sentence. I slid the cover on the food slot back an inch. The little window was clouded and dirty, but if I put my forehead to it and breathed, it cleared into a narrow oval. A palm lifted to meet the glass from the other side. My breath fogged us together for one slow beat. The glass was cold, my skin was hot. I could have taken my hand away. I didn't. Okay, I said. I don't know who I said it to. The key turned halfway and stuck. I worked it back, tried again, and felt the bolt retreat with a tired groan. The door's weight felt toward me. I put my shoulder into it and pushed. The cell was exactly what a cell like that is. Slab caught, steel toilet, writing in the paint from men who used letters like nails. It was smaller than it should have been and bigger than I wanted it. It was empty, and it wasn't. My light washed the walls and came back wrong. I stepped in because stepping in is what you do when you think you are the man with the job. The door closed behind me and my heart forgot how to beat. The lock thudded with the kind of finality that steals your speech. I hit the handle. I hit the door with my shoulder, then with both my fists, then with the part of me that still believed noise could force the word to be different. "Officer!" I shouted, and the word came out of me like it had found a groove worn by other nights. "Please!" I shouted and hated the way it fit. My flashlight flickered and went dead. The dark in there was whole. I put my mouth to the seam and begged. I promised to be good. I promised I would never ask for anything again. The hallway was silent. I slid down the wall with my head in my hands and felt the concrete hold me like my mother. Time in a box loses its corners. It turns into a loop you carry around and try not to drop. I slept in pieces that didn't add up. I woke up to a breathing that turned out to be mine. I stood and pressed my ear to the door and heard the smallest scratch. A careful tracing of the seam. Patient, steady. The sound of a man testing the borders of what's left to him. I called through the slot because that's what a voice on this side does. "Hello?" I said. "Officer?" I said next. "Please." The hallway gave nothing back that I could keep. A thought began to walk around my head and wouldn't stop. What if there had been anybody to call to? What if there had only ever been me, walking the same 12 steps in 2 different directions, and telling myself a story about a job so I could bear a life? What if the rounds and the logbook and the cameras were 4 walls I painted, so I didn't have to look at the ones with me inside them? I tried to name the last time I'd seen the sky. I could list nights and monitors and doors that opened onto more doors. I could not bring up a sun that warmed more than a window. I tried to name the last hot meal I ate that wasn't poured from a packet and swallowed standing up. The memory I reached for slid away and let me catch the one next to it. A cup of water nudged toward a seam by 2 careful fingers. If a man wearing my name walks this hall tonight, I hope he keeps going. I hope he writes his neat sentence and drinks the bad coffee and waits for the sun that belongs to him. If he stops and breathes against the glass and puts his palm where mine is, I hope he's kinder than I was to the voice that taught me how to beg. I hope he opens the door. I hope he doesn't. I don't know which hope is mercy anymore. The rule the sergeant gave me still sits heavy. Don't open solitary. I kept it until I didn't, or I broke it the first night by believing I was the one outside. All the versions of me that matter are trapped in that sentence. The building will come down soon, and the new place will go up in its clean shape with its cameras that never blink. Maybe there's a uniform there with my name stitched straight. Maybe there isn't. The air in this room feels thinner than it did when I started this thought. My tongue is cracked. My breath tastes like metal. I'm going to sit very still for a while and listen to the scratch that may be in the wall or in my head. If you are the one with the keys, do what you think is right. If you're the one without them, I know the shape of that waiting with you. Either way, I think I understand the job now. Solitary remains secure.